John Fredericks Media Network and the John Fredericks Radio app, and I am your Godzilla of the truth in America, your oracle of the deplorables. Hey, thanks for being with us today. You know, I'm all over this Safer Supervision Act because I believe it is the logical next step to the First Step Act, which I was a big supporter of when Jared Kushner and Trump 1.0 did that. I think it's made a huge difference in this country. The recidivism rate in the United States is the highest in the free world, always has been. The school to prison pipeline has been abhorrent. There's a lot of issues here. It's not about letting criminals out. It's not about no cash bail, right? That stuff has failed. It's about when prisoners come out, we want to be sure that they lead a normal life, have a job, go back to their families, stay drug and alcohol free, do the things they need to do, be productive elements of society so they don't go back into a life of crime and end up back in jail. That's what this whole thing's about. You know, it's not about a revolving door in New York City where they just get let out so they can prey on somebody else. It had nothing to do with that. Safer Supervision Act is about people that have done their time, they have gotten out of jail, they're on supervised release, and they're doing all the right things, and they earn credits to then get off. And that is what this whole thing's about. And this bill that we have, federal legislation, is better than the state bill in Virginia, which you have to earn credits. We don't want probation officers having to do a spreadsheet, right? We want a probation officer saying, okay, you know, I've visited with this guy 5, 6, 7, 8 times, or gal, they're in great shape, no drugs, no alcohol, going to church, if they so choose, have a job with their families, doing all the right things. I'm going to recommend to a judge that they get off supervision so I can cross that name off my list and go to these other people that, you know, not so much, that not following the rules. I got to keep an eye on them. That's the purpose of this. Joining me now, Doug Burris. Doug spent 23 years working in federal probation, 18 of them as chief U.S. probation officer for the Eastern District of Missouri, where he built what became the national model for supervision and reentry. He's the only person in the 100-year history of federal probation to receive 2 Director's Awards from the Director of the U.S. Courts. He's testified before the U.S. Senate, briefed the White House, and was a guest of President Trump's the signing of the Second Chance Act. After retiring, he was recruited to turn around Missouri's 2 largest and most troubled jails, achieving 0 deaths and a 70% reduction in violent crime in each one of those. And he's with us now. Doug, thanks for being with us today.
John, it is a real honor to be on your show, and I thank you for your leadership on this very important issue.
Well, our base, you know, Republicans are for this, but our MAGA base doesn't understand it. And here's what it's getting mixed in with, okay? No cash bail, Soros, woke DAs, letting people out of jail, arresting somebody in New York, processing them, no prosecution, gets let out in 15 minutes, commits another crime. And so safer supervision is getting lumped in with what is going on with crime in this country, where it actually, if you do it the right way, it has a dramatic positive increase or decrease in crime, and it gets our past prisoners back into the system being productive citizens as fast as we can. Is that not an accurate statement?
That is absolutely the facts of this situation. And people who are doing well on supervision, if they're over supervised, they're more likely to recidivate. It just makes no sense for us to waste time on people that are doing well in the community when there are people who aren't doing well in the community, and we should be devoting our resources to make sure they do not create additional victims.
Tell us about your experience with supervision and this legislation. Remember, in the state of Virginia, where I encouraged the Republicans to sign it, to go with it, and Governor Youngkin to sign it, you had to earn credits, right? And then, you know, the probation officer would have to put it on a spreadsheet. But, well, nationally, it's untenable, right? You can't. Supervisors have got 100 people in their docket. They can't be like writing up spreadsheets about who did what. But if they feel that the supervised former prisoner is doing the right things, then they can make a recommendation to that judge, and then the judge will review it and decide if he can get off supervision. Isn't this federally a more practical way of making this work?
It absolutely is. And I can give you some examples. For instance, a man who returns to his community and gets a job as an electrician, and he's doing well at work. He's involved in his church community. He's testing drug free. We're wasting our time supervising this person. And you compare that to someone who we had a case here in eastern Missouri where a child porn offender was released, refusing to work, was caught at some local schools. We did a search on his computer that he was not supposed to have. A neighbor that we had contacted said we saw him bring a computer into his house. And after a forensic search of his computer, showed that he was plotting to kidnap a child from a playground to turn into a sex slave. Now, do we need to be wasting time on that first person who's doing everything right, or should we be devoting our resources to people like this child porn offender? This is not only smart on crime; it is also tough on crime when we do our job right.
Well, that's the whole thing. If you do it right, and the Safer Supervision Act plays into that, you got 23 years of proven results. Why did you come on board with this campaign?
Makes more sense than anything that I've seen since the First Step Act. And it really will make a difference in the community. It will lower crime rates. And it's when you were talking about those that are taking advantage of becoming a good citizen, a good neighbor, a good parent. And with those people, we should let them finish their transition to the community. And we should assist them to get to the point where we can do that handoff to where they're back with their family. But we shouldn't be wasting our time once they are starting to do good. And research has shown that if people are employed and staying drug free, then they are not going to recidivate. And in fact, from federal probation's own statistics, they show that people that are unemployed and stay unemployed throughout supervision have more than 50% failure rates. But those who are employed and stay employed have 90% success rates and do not recidivate.
I think that's the key to this,
Yes.
is what you just said. Um, a lot of our audience, listening and viewing audience, remembers the First Step Act. I was very much a supporter of that. Jared Kushner, I thought that was the best work he did. It was in his portfolio. That's how I became friends with Jared, working on it. And I thought they did a super job. Newt Gingrich was for it. Remind people of what the First Step Act was, our listeners, and how that has made such a difference. Doug.
Well, it has done so much where there's more of a seamless transition from the person when they're in prison to when they're turned over to probation in the community. That is really the main thing, but also to give more people opportunities on proven facts that lower recidivism, like job training and other things along those lines. It's been widely successful. And I should probably also add that with supervision, people that are released early from supervision have lower recidivism rates than those that are forced to full term. It's also not being done fairly currently, where if you're in one district in the United States, you might get an early discharge, where in another district, you're half as likely to get an early discharge, where this law will even out the odds and follow the science to a more crime-free society.
What has caused us, just get philosophical here, what has caused the United States to have the highest recidivism rate in the free world?
That's an outstanding question. And I think that we're setting people up to fail when they return from prison. We're there to catch them in a lot of circumstances instead of help them and assist them. And it can't be done with anyone like that child porn offender I talked about earlier. But the majority of people, if they're giving hope and help, like the president said, and they will succeed and they will become a good citizen in their community.
This bill is it's going to first markup this week, I think, in the Senate. So I want to urge all of our listeners to support the Safer Supervision Act. To learn more, go to safersupervision.com, safersupervision.com, because this is very important. Now it's going to go to markup in the Senate, but we understand the political system. The way the Senate works is one person that doesn't like it on either side of the aisle can kill it, right?
Right.
That's why we're opposed to this 60 vote cloture rule. This is part of it. So you get a Rand Paul or you get a this one or that one that's trying to say, hey, look at me, I'm tough on crime, because they don't even understand what the bill is, and they can hold it up. How do we break through that barrier?
I think just you continuing to carry the torch for this vastly important topic without any doubt and get the information out that we will be more effective on fighting crime when this bill passes. There's no doubt about it.
How would you grade the results of the First Step Act passed by Trump 1.0 now?
I'd give it a solid A. It was well thought out. It was implemented extremely well. And I am thrilled with the fact that they even called it the First Step Act because the president knew that we need to take second steps to continue the progress that he created with this first.
Well, Doug, I tell you what, you've been in this business a very long time. You have a very storied career. I really, really want to thank you for your energy and putting this forward. And again, I want to urge our listeners, go to safersupervision.com, safersupervision.com. The Safer Supervision Act is the next natural step from the First Step Act to reduce the recidivism, the school to prison pipeline, the revolving door. This has nothing to do with, woke DAs in Fairfax, Descano letting people out of jail or Bragg in New York City. It's got nothing to do with that. This is you've gotten out, you're doing all the right things. We want you back in society, and then we want to allow the supervising officer to be able to lower his portfolio of cases so that he can focus on that guy that you talked about that's got nefarious things in mind. Now for the person that's doing all the right things. Go to safersupervision.com. And right now it's time you call your senator because it's going into markup. And, it's going to pass the House. It's going to get Democrat votes. It's going to pass the House with the overwhelming majority of Republicans. But, what you worry about here, Doug, is this ridiculous 60 vote cloture rule we have. I'm not worried about the 60 votes. I think we'll get those if it gets to the floor in the Senate. I'm worried about some guy, it's going to be somebody on the Republican side of the aisle that is going to say this is soft on crime because they don't understand it, and they're going to want to put it in the TV ad, and they just kill it because one person can do that. That's the folly of what they've done in the Senate. Like one person can stop anything from going anywhere. So I think Doug, that's our risk here.
Right. I totally agree. And the costs that we're talking about are just astronomical. It's nearly $50,000 a year to house a man in federal prison. And when they fail on supervision for some of the silly things, and instead of giving them incentives to succeed, that cost just really adds up. And of course, then their families do not have the breadwinner in the household as well. So this is destroying families, and where the Safer Supervision Act will make the community safer and bring families closer.
Doug, thank you. Thank you for all you've done. You've got a lot of awards. Doug Burris with us again. Go to safersupervision.com, safersupervision.com. And this segment has been partially sponsored by the Reform Action Fund. Doug, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.